Hey everyone, we are Table Talk Games. I'm your host Jake Combs, and today we're actually testing out the Krydrufi All-In-One Modular Art Box that we actually did an unboxing with about a week or so ago. And so we've basically opened up all of the compartments and steadily put them to use throughout the course of this video. And I basically did a couple-hour painting session. Of course, we didn't film the entire time, but basically we're testing it thoroughly inside and out, literally, as you're going to see. So as I mentioned, this is my Bellacore model that I've slowly been meaning to get to and finally putting paint to. And the model itself, absolutely love it. Just had the hardest time picking my color scheme, which is why it's literally sat on my shelf for almost a whole year since being assembled and primed. But we're finally here. We're finally ready. Now, first impressions of the art box. I love how compact it is, and that it allows you to really keep everything together. One thing I always disliked about using multiple brushes in a session is the fact that, when they're not completely dry, I don't want to put them away until they are dry, mostly to prevent, mold and things like that growing. And by using this with the ones that you either have kind of in the water or the ones that you have outside of the water, it allows you to allow them to air dry or soak a little bit if the paint's kind of dried on the bristles as well. Now, one thing that you can do, and I would recommend being very careful with this, is the side that you actually have the brush sitting in, where it's actually submerged partially. Maybe put a little rubbing alcohol in there, something to kind of break the paint up a little bit more. And if you do, and I didn't do that here, but if you do, you want to make sure that you don't have the entire brush submerged, because you don't want to get that alcohol up inside the, I believe it's called like the ferrule or something like that, and might affect the glue that's there, that's holding the bristles in place. And so, you want to be careful with how high up the paint goes, and make sure that you're rinsing it more often than you probably have in the past. At least I know I have a tendency of trying to only rinse it when I'm changing colors, and sometimes that does a terrible job when it comes to keeping the paintbrush clean. So here we've gone nearly 4 minutes, and I hadn't actually rinsed the brush, and I noticed it was starting to get a little stiff. Now, with the brushes in general, normally I have always preferred to swish it around, not actually like break it up with a textured pad or anything on the bottom. And so with this brush, this is one that's a little jacked up over the many years of using it, and so wasn't as careful with it as I tend to be with my brushes. So I decided to go ahead and try that out and see if that actually did a better job of cleaning the brush and rinsing it off, and was pleasantly surprised to find that yes, it did. The brush actually got a lot cleaner than it normally does by just swishing it around. So having that textured bottom definitely makes a huge improvement there. And afterward, and I tried this with one of my ghost brushes, which is that white brush you see right there. And with the ghost brush, those I'm a lot more careful with. They're my favorite brushes, and so even with one of those, the one that gets used the most, I decided to actually try it out, and was pleasantly surprised how well it did doing that, but I would just recommend making sure that you're moving it across the pad all the same direction. That way you're less likely to bend or break the tip. And once I was done rinsing it, the tip on it was much better than I expected it to be. Honestly, I was expecting it to be just as jacked up as that Black Citadel brush was, and pleasantly surprised to find it wasn't. So based on the drying racks and the cups themselves and the pad at the bottom, this all-in-one art box is already well worth the cost in my opinion. And again, the compact nature of it just really works. Now, as you can see there, that we went ahead and tried scooping some of our paint into the compartment at the very bottom, so that way we could actually test that out and see if that truly actually kept it airtight. And so later you're gonna actually see how well that did. Because first we used it here to mix a couple of colors together to make Bellacore's tongue, and was very happy with the result after the first application. But that was the only color we actually ended up mixing in that. Now, even though we can air dry the brushes, I still use the paper towel as well, mostly to see if there's any paint left on the brush, not just to see if it's dry. Because if it still had the paint on it, then it needed to go back in the water and rinse it off a little bit more. And once I was satisfied with how clean it was coming, that's when I would hang it up to dry. Now here we've got the actual parchment paper that comes with it for using as a palette, as well as the drying sponge, and tried them out. The drying sponge worked really well as far as soaking up the excess liquid. The palette pad honestly worked really well. Problem is with it being completely exposed like that and not using it as part of a wet palette, the paint did dry up pretty quickly. But overall, having that there kind of as part of the all-in-one package definitely does make for some easier painting, and without having to worry about carrying a separate palette with you. And as always, as a reminder for the painting, make sure you try to keep your paint strokes all going the same direction. One, because it's going to make the paint actually dry more uniform, but two, because it's going to help you maintain the quality of the brush tip as well. Sometimes when I look back on something I've been painting, it surprises me how much time and effort goes into painting a small area, just in the amount of time that it actually takes to get it done right. But, you know, patience definitely will make for a higher quality paint job and allow you better control overall, and definitely help improve your cleanliness. But for people like myself that are always chronically impatient, it definitely is kind of frustrating to invest that much time and have so little to show for it. So here you're going to see how well the airtight container kept the paint moist, and you can see that it actually does a really good job of that. This was about close to 6 hours later. Now, about 6 hours after that, I checked again, and by that point, it was finally dry. So, if you're going to be doing paint over a few hour period, this is definitely the way to go. Overall, I found the case to be probably one of the best single tools that I've purchased that is, or earned or picked up or received, that has helped me in painting beyond just the paints and the brushes themselves. Absolute win.